Yes, it has been picked out previously, and it's a well-known fact that the capacitors are really very visible. If you're new to the channel or you haven't already, don't forget to smash that subscribe button, click on the bell icon, select all, and you'll be notified every time we upload new content. So this is going to be my first look at some of the new Hornby APT coach packs that are available. I'm going to look at 3 examples today, and first of all what we'll have a look at is the things they all have in common. So first things first, we'll look at the packaging. The packaging seems to be pretty much very similar to that of the power car, just a different size. If you haven't seen the power car video, I'll put a link at the end of the video. Each pack contains 2 coaches. It'll state on the front of the box which numbers those coaches are, as well as which particular type of coach they are, and it'll also tell you which sets that they are actually for. In this case, with the packs that we're looking at, this would be for sets 370001 and 370002. So as you can see from the artwork on the front, it'll show you the coaches that you will be receiving inside the packaging. On the top you'll get a view of both sides of the coaches that you're actually going to receive inside this box. On the rear you will also get an image of both sides of that coach as well. It'll also give you the information on how to actually set up the formation for a 14 car set using the 7 car train pack, as well as images of the additional coach packs available for that set. So inside the box, what do you get? Well, as usual with most Hornby items, you will get a operating and service manual for the actual item included. It'll give you the usual things about running in and that sort of thing. It also seems to be the same manual that I received with the power unit. So it's giving you information on the formations, but it's giving you a lot more information on DCC fitting for the power unit, something that isn't actually required with this coach pack. So it's covered with a piece of card, and it is a cardboard interior. So inside you'll get 2 coaches and 2 of the shared bogies. They're wrapped up in a protective film which you can just slot off and then remove the item in question. Be careful when you're doing this, as the bogie will naturally jam itself in the packaging. So we'll take 1 coach out and have a look at what all the coaches have in common. When I say in common, I mean certain details or certain parts of the actual moulding. If you have a look here at the lower portion of the body, you'll be able to see the moulded detail running all the way along for all of the panels which could be removed for whatever reason on the real item. There seems to be quite a significant amount of detail in this moulding running along the bottom here of the actual coach. I've never owned one of the earlier models of the APT, so I don't know whether that was present with the earlier model. If we take a close look at the bogie, this is the shared bogie between itself and the next coach. This definitely seems to have a lot more detail than that of the original APT released by Hornby many years ago. In fact, print alone with warnings is actually legible close up. Incredibly small, but still legible. The mechanisms, springs, cables, pipework are all visible along the moulding of this bogie, as well as the air suspension bags. It is fitted with metal wheels, and they do appear to be considerably smaller than wheels I am used to seeing on coaches. If we have a look at the top of the bogie, where it actually fits to the next coach, you'll actually see it's a limited detail on the top, but then it's not really going to be seen. But this is the joining mechanism. It is a ball and cup system. If you look at the end of the bogie here, you'll see this almost triangular shape on the moulding, and that is part of the tilt mechanism for the coach. If we take a look at the other side of the ball and cup system, you'll see that there is the hole aperture or socket for the ball to locate into, and you'll be able to see this little bit of the moulding here. This is what the tilt mechanism runs up against from the bogie. This is what gives you your tilt as the bogie turns round a corner. One thing that should be noted is the ball and the cup don't snap together. The ball simply sits inside the cup, so it will lift off very easily. I have my concerns as to whether or not this might actually prove to be a bit of a problem, but I did see the television program where Hornby had their APT running around on the track, and it didn't appear to be an issue on there. If we go back to the bogie and have a look at the underside of the bogie, you can see those metal wheels that I previously spoke about, and you can also see that it has all-wheel pickup. So this will be for the interior lighting. The wires running from the bogie to the body are incredibly thin. and I'm hoping that they will last over a long period of time, because they are very thin and they look really quite delicate. The wires run straight from the bogie into a hole in the base of the coach. All of the coach packs have lighting fit into them, and yes, it has been picked out previously, and it's a well-known fact that the capacitors are really very visible. But there are actually some other things that are really very visible as well. In this restaurant buffet car, I have to admit, yes, you can see the capacitor there, but it in no way is as visible as it is in the other coaches. What some people seem to have failed to have noticed is that's not the only thing that's visible. If you have a look at the window of the doorway here, you will actually see the plastic moulding for the screw to locate into to hold the top half and the bottom half of the coach together. No one seems to be complaining about that, but it's still there and it's still visible. I have to admit, when I first heard about the capacitor before I received my coach packs, I was somewhat concerned. However, I have no intention of moving my capacitor. There are a number of reasons for this. One, I do not want to potentially damage the coach or the lighting, however simple it is to do, and I do have electrical and electronic qualifications. Also, in the future, should I ever choose for whatever reason to sell any of my collection, anything that has been fiddled with and is not as it should be denotes that it has been modified in some way. Now that's great, fair enough, if someone's looking for something specific, but if it's a collector wanting it, they may be reluctant to purchase it if it has been modified in any way, therefore not as factory supplied. I really am not that bothered about seeing those capacitors because I intend to fit passengers into the coaches. I'm hoping that it will take away some of that focal point. If we have a look at the end of the coach, which doesn't have the bogie fitted, we can see the overhead flash warning signs. There is a reasonable amount of moulded detail. The fit is reasonably good between the end panel and the body, although I can actually see a little bit what I assumed was overspray at first, but is actually just that the end of the coach is not perfectly flushly fitted like it is at the other side. It's not really going to be visible, and it's not something that's upset me in any way. The corridor connections look really, really nice, and they've been picked out lovely. You can see into the corridor and where it turns. However, something else that is visible when you're holding it like this, but not necessarily when it is on the track, is actually a screw that holds the interior down to the bottom of the coach. These are small compromises that we all have to live with if we want to have this APT, and there was always going to be compromises. If we have a look at the other end of the coach where the bogie is fitted, you can see that same screw again holding the interior down, and you can see the wiring and the end of the capacitor. This really isn't something that worries me that much, and I am sure that somebody will produce a set of cardboard or paper bellows to connect between the coaches that will work with the tilt and the turning of the coaches. So it's not something that is really going to be all that visible, but it's there. I'm going to be honest about it while I'm making this video. So similar to the other side, we've got our overhead flash warning decals, and we've got plenty of moulded detail around the bellow and on the end of the cab for jump cables and so on. This particular coach comes from pack R40012A. It is the TRBS coach with running number 48401. Let's have a look at the detail on the side of the coach. So on the side of the coach, we have got our overhead flash warning sign. We've got our running number, which is printed very sharply on the side of SC48401. We've got the yellow warning sign at the bottom of the coach above the bogie, warning you that the gap may close between the bogie and the coach. At the other end of the coach, we have got that same warning sign above where the bogie will be placed when you join it to another coach. It is actually legible, which really does show how the printing process has got on over the years. We've got some print on the door there. I'm not quite sure what it says, and I'm going to try and get a close-up image and see if it can be made out or not. The window frames are picked out in the silver. The glazing is tinted. You can see the moulding where the step would come out when the door opens for people to alight and embark onto the coach. The ribs are fine and visible along the length of the coach roof. On this side, you can just see through the tinted windows where the counter would be and the kitchen area would be within this coach. Turn it over and we look at the opposite side. We've got the same printed detail above the bogie areas with the warnings. We have got our running number still, our overhead warning flash decals, and we have the same decal on the door. From this side of the coach, yes, the capacitor is even more visible. We've got our red stripe across the top, which denotes obviously the fact that it's a restaurant buffet. Windows tinted, as they are on all of the coaches. This area here would be the kitchen area, and obviously the area where there's no windows present, where the kitchen would be. Without the interior lights on, you can just say make out the seating and tables, which all appear to be red. I'm not going to open these coaches up at present. There is no need for me to open these coaches up at present. I don't want to risk damaging the coaches, but I will have to open them up in future to fit passengers into the coaches themselves. On a 14 car set, that looks like it's going to be a very long and arduous job. So we've covered some of the similar items across the bogies and bodywork that are present on all of the coaches. Let's have a quick look at any differences there may be between the coaches. At the top we've got our TRBS, we've got our TF in the centre, and we've got our TS at the bottom. The only one not present for the 14 car set here at the moment is my TU, or trailer unclassified, and that is only because it hasn't arrived yet. So as you can see across all three of these models here, we've got our running numbers, they're all present in the same places. We've got our warning flashes, they're all present in the same places. We've got our WC windows, which are all present. We've got our doors that are all present, whereas I pointed out earlier, you can see the plastic moulding behind it, which actually locates the screw to hold the top and the bottom of the body together. It's not something that I'm really that bothered about, but I need to point it out. So I've just flipped over the trailer second coach because I wanted to put it exactly in line with that of the trailer first, just to compare the two bottom areas of the coaches to see whether or not they are identical, and they are. They are absolutely identical. It's the same moulding across the bottom. The detail on the moulding there is exactly the same as that on the bottom here. If I flip them over and have a look at both of the coaches again from the opposite side, and they are yet again absolutely identical. So realistically, from an exterior point of view, they are the same coach, just with the yellow line placed across the top of the trailer first. However, there are differences between the two coaches on the inside. The interior here of the trailer second is all in a sort of very dark red maroon colour, and you can see the seating and the tables present. However, on the trailer first, the interior is actually blue, where you can see the seats and the tables fitted. They have made the effort to actually put the correct colour interiors within the coaches themselves. That's pretty much the differences between the first and the second. I would imagine it will be very similar in respect to the trailer unclassified. The interior of the buffet car is of the same dark red, almost maroon colour. If we just take a quick look at the bogie mechanisms, and you can see we have the ball joint and we have the cup on the base of the other coach, and it just sits straight in. There is no snap fit or anything like that, it just sits straight in. So the coaches joined together have a very small gap between both coaches. In fact, if I get this steel rule and place it there, between the actual ends of the coaches there's about a 10mm gap, but between the actual bellows you're probably looking at between, I would say, around about 4mm, maybe down to 3. Stationary or in a straight line, that is great, and it's very close, and with some paper or cardboard bellows attached, that would look really good. However, when the coaches actually go round, the tilt mechanism will kick in, and as you can see there, as with anything, the gap is going to get greater at one side. That is a bit extreme, the way I've put the coaches there. Unless you're running very small radius curves, I don't imagine that they're going to open quite as much as that. Even with a slighter curve, that gap gets greater. So if there is anybody out there who is producing the cardboard or paper bellows, there are many on eBay for various different coaches, can I ask, give it a go and let us know if you can actually make some for the APT. I really do think that will take away a lot of focus of the interior of those corridors when it's travelling around on the track. I know if they do become available, I will certainly be looking into getting some myself. So the interior lighting seems to be very, very bright, and it really does illuminate those coaches, and you really can see the detail within them. Yes, the capacitor is visible, but my view is that when placing passengers into the coach, The capacitor sits in the centre of the gangway. With the addition of passengers sat in the windows where the capacitor is, especially if they're painted up properly, I firmly believe that the presence of the capacitors will be seriously reduced. If you're looking for them, I suspect yes, you will find them. However, by placing passengers within the coach, I seriously think it will take your eyes away from the actual fact that the capacitor is there. With what I would say are really very nice interiors, it would be a shame to run these coaches without passengers. I have already ordered many packs of the cheap China made passengers, which I will repaint individually, and I will be placing many passengers within these coaches, and very specifically near where these capacitors are. If you don't want to fiddle on with the electrics on your coaches, and you don't want to modify them in such a way that requires a soldering iron, messing around with electrics, moving capacitors to different locations, my advice, put some passengers in. I firmly believe you will barely be able to see those capacitors. They won't disappear, but they will become less visible, and your sight will be drawn away from the capacitors and more towards the passengers. So as you can see here, I have lined up a few of the coaches on some track here, and they're all illuminated and you can see inside. And as I said at the beginning of the video, this was just a look at some comparisons of the coaches, what you get and how they look. It has taken almost 2 years to get to the point at which we are receiving these items. Worldwide disruption is not Hornby's fault, and there are compromises to be made with any manufacturing process, and compromises have obviously had to be made with the process of the manufacture of these APT coaches. I am quite happy with these coaches. If you've watched the power car video, you will know how much I've wanted to get a hold of an APT and all of the coach packs since they were announced. Now that they're finally arriving, I'm feeling very happy, although very concerned initially with the whole there's a capacitor there and then other things being picked up. I've realised it really isn't as bad as it was made out on the internet. So if you haven't already seen the power car video, take a look at that video at the top of the screen there. I've put a playlist at the bottom that you might enjoy. Don't forget, if you found this video of some use, give it a like. Also subscribe to the channel and have a look at the Aidans Railways Shorts channel, where all the short form content is now being posted. Thanks for watching, and I shall see you again soon. Bye now.